Welcome to My BioReach Entrepreneurship webinar series, where we line exciting and exclusive webinars created to empower, embolden, and educate aspiring entrepreneurs as yourselves. On behalf of Bioeconomy Corporation, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. This is our first session in the series. And before we begin, I would like to invite Ms. Haslina Hamidan, Senior Manager of Strategic Communication, to give the welcoming remarks. Ms. Haslina, please.
Thank you, Noor. Dr. Muhammad Imran, InScan, Bio-Counselor, distinguished audience, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Bioeconomy Corporation, I am pleased to welcome all of you to the first webinar under the My BioReach program, which is a national outreach program that aims to engage and empower the Rakyat through awareness and development of bioeconomy. Today's entrepreneurship-themed webinar is part of a series of knowledge-sharing sessions for the audience to gain insights and advice on various topics from ministries, agencies, entrepreneurs, and individuals with expertise in their related fields. We know that despite the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, people are still hungry for knowledge and passionate about improving themselves. This global crisis has actually sparked many to embark on new or unusual business opportunities. That is why today's topic is important, because people are always looking to evolve their business and stay resilient in an unpredictable economy. In this matter, we are happy to have Dr. Muhammad Imran from InScan to speak and share his insights and experience with everyone today. Through this webinar, we hope you will add on more value to your existing knowledge, ideas and skills that will benefit you and your business in the long term. We have more BioReach webinars in line for you today, tomorrow as well, focusing on digital business, and then Thursday, which is related to building your own brand products, which is a very interesting session. Registration for these sessions are still open, so don't miss out before the slots are taken up. Finally, we hope that this webinar will bring you closer to whatever goals you wish to achieve. So sit back, enjoy the webinar, and may you gain better opportunities and positive outcomes from today's session. Thank you. Back to you, Noor.
Thank you, Ms. Haslina. Okay, for our Help My Business Needs to Grow talk today, we have, as Haslina mentioned, Dr. Imran, Bio-Counselor from Institute Keusahawanan Negara, or in short, InScan. Now, before I call our speaker to begin his presentation, I would like to remind you that there will be a Q&A session after each topic presented. If you have a question for Dr. Imran before he finishes, you may put the question in the chat box. I will be reading your question during the Q&A session. Before we start, allow me to say a little about our speaker. Dr. Imran is the Bio-Counselor from InScan and holds under his belt various positions as the New Entrepreneurs Foundation Industry Coach and the Netherlands Maritime Institute of Technology Corporate Planning Lecturer, to name a few. Today, Dr. Imran will give 3 insights on 3 topics, which are: number 1, adopt technology and elevate your business. Topic 2, scale up from startup to SME. And for the last topic, grow and sustain your business in the COVID-19 era. Without further ado, I invite Dr. Imran to begin his talk. Dr. Imran, please.
Hello, sorry. I suddenly clicked the stop video instead of the unmute button. Sorry. Right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good morning to all of you. Yang dihormati Puan Haslina, Yang Berusaha, Puan Noor dan rakan-rakan saya di Bioeconomy Corporation. Dan yang dialu-alukan semua peserta dan tuan-tuan dan puan-puan sekalian. Selamat pagi semua. Mari kita mulakan My BioReach Entrepreneurship webinar series. Seperti yang difahamkan, saya the starting off point for this week, and probably a few more coming soon. But don't worry, my approach will be a bit unique. So apologies if you're not familiar or used to it, but I've discussed in length with Puan Haslina and the team. The goal today is actually to make sure everybody learns something, but more importantly, they get benefit. Again, the topic today will be broad and wide, but as we move along, you'll know what my session is like. Of course, seperti yang diperkenalkan tadi, saya seorang lecturer, but I actually don't like lecturing so much. I like benefiting my customers, my participants, my coaches, right? Perkataan coachee itu mungkin a new term, so let me just give you a bit of insight on that. Okay, so today's agenda, before I start introducing myself, I need to apologize because I rearrange a bit on the schedule today, right? Number one, I instead of adopting technology, I save the best for last. we will start with growing and sustaining your business in the COVID-19 era, and to scale up from startup to SME. Of course, that's what we need to do, because you guys, or as the poster said, looks like I'm asking help. That I'm the one who needs my business to grow. But yeah, we need to grow in the COVID-19 era, and how we can scale up from startup to SME, as well as adopting technology. All right. Now, before you get to know a bit about, actually, let me just talk about myself. Again, I don't want to promote myself, but just to give you a bit of insight where I'm coming from, right? I've purposely reworded everything just to kind of not to promote myself, so I changed a lot of company names, because I don't want to promote my entities, my partners, and myself, because I just want to show you a bit of my credentials. That's it. Okay, because I don't want to focus so much about me, but what I do actually, right? So if you can look into a bit of the biz counselor, as well as the my industry experience. I have a lot of breadth of experience with regards to coaching entrepreneurs. Coaching is kind of like guiding and training at the same time, more like tutors and teachers, as opposed to trainers and consultants, right? But of course, I'm by background, I'm a bit of a consultant, so I like to fix problems, right? So that's a bit about my profile, right? Sorry, it's a bit of. Right. So, but this is how I really can help you. Okay, enough about my credentials, but this is how I really can help you. What I'm actually here to do, if you permit me, everybody. So, I'm here to solve problems, as like most consultants do. Think of me as a fixer, right? But in order to kind of like both of us, and mainly the participants here today, nak dapat hasil tu, I need a bit of your input and, yes, your expertise to understand it first. So the way how it works, usually when I coach or when I train people, I like to see what is the outcome. I mean, yes, there is a certain set of skills, there's a certain knowledge that is needed to be imparted on entrepreneurs, on people and executives. Yes, that's all good and well, fits with the program duty. But however, I'm very lucky that my partners, Bioeconomy Corporation, has green-lighted the idea of like, all right, why don't we make it more purposeful, right? Let's not talk about, yes, we are going to talk about theories, as webinars and online learning is all about, but what can we gain in this short few hours, right? Of course, knowing, being an academician, being a trainer, I know most people kadang-kadang dah tepu after a few hours. So we will go through it stage by stage. We'll focus on a few key areas and journey on together as we explore additional benefits that we can achieve. All right. So, for example, if you guys have a keen point of interest, like macam, oh, Dr. Imran, this is actually what I'm vying for. This is actually my problem. Feel free to highlight that in the chat box. Of course, I don't mind spending a bit more time on it as opposed to just lecturing. I prefer, for me, and of course, this medium and this channel specifically to help you, instead of, just, oh, I'm addressing a need, but I can't help somebody who is in need of help, right? So feel free to put in the chat box, be active, and overall engage. Again, I'm offering up my help. usually I get paid to help people, but now I'm more interested in understanding your problems, your sectors, your industries, as well as how can I help you in this short time that we have together. All right. So now, Oh, sorry. This always happens when I, okay. So when, as a starting point, I like to start with a few quotes. Again, I'm not more so much of a motivational speaker. I'm more of a pragmatic rather than optimist. Okay, pragmatism comes with a lot of, okay, what works and what doesn't work, right? So motivation is not what I'm known for, but I usually start with this. But it's not a quote of motivation. It's actually somebody that I admire, and it's actually in line with what we want to learn today, right? So get the fundamentals down, and the level of everything you do will rise. So masuknya, like I believe, I'm a firm believer, you need to go back to basics. And regardless of business and everything, the key issues, whether in your bioeconomy sector, whether in your logistics sector, whether you're in education, we need to go back to basics to understand the fundamental value, and as well as problems that we face day to day. So, and again, I'm more of a pragmatism, so I'm not a motivational speaker, and this is not done by a motivational speaker. This is actually done one of the best sportsmen of all time, Michael Jordan. So he says that you can practice shooting 8 hours a day, but if your technique is wrong, then all you become is very good at shooting the wrong way. Sama juga. So get your fundamentals right, and everything you do after that will rise. So sometimes I feel like, again, I'm very lucky. Last year, I've engaged with a lot of youth and a lot of trainees and a lot of entrepreneurs. I've under my belt for 2020 with all the pandemic going on, in between PKPs, before COVID hit Malaysia, when Ura start datang, and then the wave came in, as well as all the economic restrictions that follows. SOP ketat, tak boleh keluar rumah, tak perlu pakai face mask, sekarang perlu pakai face mask dan sebagainya. So I've have experience with my entrepreneurs experience. I've had thousands of them, and then in one seminar I had the opportunity to engage with would-be entrepreneurs in the education sector. So they are keen on entering the industry, but of course lah, takut sebab COVID melanda. How can we start a business when the economy is like this? So yeah, I've had a lot of engagement, and as well as this year, dealing with young executives, with entrepreneurs, B40 entrepreneurs, rural area entrepreneurs, usahawan-usahawan yang tak ada line internet, but they're going digital. Yes, there are usahawan like that. Usahawan-usahawan yang that are focused on arts and crafts instead of standard and traditional entrepreneurship. Yes, we have those as well, and I get my experience from them. In every sector, I find it that when you go back to basics, irregardless whether you've been trained or not trained before, whether you start off from scratch, or whether you learn from somebody and continue on, irregardless, when we go back to basics, inshallah, we will go forward the right way. All right. So that's what I'm interested to do today. So apologies kalau nampak macam leceh, alamak Dr. Imran nak jadi BMC, Dr. Imran nak jadi asas keseluruhan. That's not my intention. My intention is to highlight a few key areas that we can focus on to just think about it. Whether you want to restart your business, whether you want to think about your business in a different way, that's all up to you. So that's where I welcome your engagement and comments. All right. So again, please do not be disheartened. Alamak, Dr. Imran cakap saya buat bisnes salah dan sebagainya. Do not be disheartened. Right. The purpose for it is just for you to think about it. Right. Reassessment and re-engaging with your business and your customers is vital in any industry. Pandemic or no pandemic. Right. It's very important. So this is kind of like, think about it like macam, Dr. Imran, nama pun doktor. Okay lah, ni macam health check-up lah. Saya pun dah umur 40 tahun, saya pun dah umur 20 tahun. God knows what I have, what's wrong with my body. Let's just go for a follow-up check-up. So macam tu, Alright, so now, let's move on. So let's start with the basics, alright? So apologies, we were not going to the first topic just yet, but let me just set the stage, alright? Let me just set the foundation so that everybody knows what they're going through, right? So this is something that most entrepreneurs are taught with BMC, Business Model Canvas. So you have all the 9 elements. I teach them almost every week, almost every day. So I can So I dah hafal lah, dah khasam dah. So I will start with customer segments, and then we go to value proposition, and then we go to channels, we go to the customer relationship, and then we go to revenue streams, we go to key resources, key activities, key partners, and then lastly your cost structure. Yes, I know all of it. I can plot it out from thin air. I can tell you how it connects with each other. But again, setengah entrepreneurs, they might not be interested. Alamak, Dr. Imran ajar basics. No, that's not my intention. I'm just going to focus on a few key areas. Now, with the limited time that we have, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to touch a bit on BMC and the basics of business, particularly just the customer segments. In this case, gambar ni customer profile, as well as your value proposition, your company. So, two things I'm going to talk about today with regards to your business, right? And hopefully, those of you who are just here to just listen in, don't just be a passive listener. Just get active. Just get a pen and a paper. Suddenly, just write down. Here, maybe I just want to. Okay, who are my customers? What is my value? I want to see what Dr. Imran is talking about, right? So macam apa yang Dr. Imran nak buat? Tapi it's okay. It's a bit more. It's a bit of a proactive lecture instead of a traditional look and listen. But so this is the two things that we want to focus on, right? So I'm not gonna jangan risau. Saya takkan pergi, okay, what is product service, what is green creators, alamak, Dr. Imran nak ajar balik. Tak apa, I'm going to give you a bit of a pass. Let's go to be a bit of shortcut. But if you have to promise me that it's all practical, whatever that you want to write down, whatever instances that you can think of moving forward, it all has to be related to your company or the companies that you are trying to build, or the new value that you're trying to bring with your company, right? It's not something like theoretical anymore, right? I don't want to I prefer definitely we can engage in brainstorming and discussion, but I prefer, like, with the 5 minutes, 10 minutes that we have in discussions later on or during break time, I prefer we can discuss in something meaningful. I mean, what problems that you're having, how can I help, and what advice that you need, and what outside input that might be helpful for you right now, right? So something is very practical in line with your company, right? Now, so again, this slide has been so basically when you learn from anybody from multiple government agencies in Malaysia and outside Malaysia, they usually have a strategizer, business model canvas template, and then they talk about what is value proposition, what is the customer segment, and what is the customer profile, right? So essentially let's just gonna skip all that part. If you want to read this, I'm sorry, I'm not going to give you enough time, but if you really need to, I'm going to need to go back to basics again, I feel free to take the next 10 to 15 seconds to just print screen this. I'm just going to summarize everything, right? So value proposition, you were taught as an entrepreneur, whether you've been taught formally or you learn yourself online and by practice, that the value proposition is such and such, right? So it's basically why a customer would choose your product or service. Yes, which is true, which is very good, because because it is true. It is kenapa customer pilih produk kita ataupun syarikat kita. That is the value proposition, true. And customer segment, customer profile is basically macam groups of customer, basically who is our customer, and sometimes and most of the time kita letak, okay, apalah umur dia, jantina dia, lokasi kat mana, and then sometimes if you have the data, what is the income level, right? So again, I'm not telling you that what is in front of you is wrong. It's actually true, but how many of you need this, right? So I need to ask you all of this again. Berapa ramai peserta-peserta ini yang actually perlukan this slide? Because I'm not here to teach you on how to start business. Most of you here today are already in business or have an exact idea on how to, right? Betul kan? So this is for you guys. Essentially, when you learn this again, the benefits is almost zero. It's very little or to zero, right? So let's look at it again, right? What I wanna focus on is actually what is the value proposition and what is the customer profile. Again, this wheel again. Kenapa these two things coincide with each other? Why is Dr. Imran focusing on just these two things? Because it's usually the basic building blocks. I just need to focus on two things: value proposition, which is you. The blue line and the blue boxes are you, your company, and the red circles and the red lines and the red pie chart is actually about your customers. I just need you to start engaging on, start to think about and start discussing on what you are and what value that you have, as well as what your customers are, who your customers. So internal and external is very simple. One thing you control and you should know everything at in your fingertips. And one thing, again, same thing, you control and you should know at the end of your fingertips. Very important. Both things are very different, but the importance is is the same level importance. The level of expertise and detail that you need to have in your value proposition and your customer profile has to be either 98% or 99%. All right. Okay. So this is at your level. Let's just start to refresh. These are the key areas. And again, this is also about growing your business and on later. So let's just get this topic out of hand first. So apologies if it sounds a bit too a bit of a lecture, but just bear with me for the next 5 minutes. You'll get a deeper appreciation and a greater understanding of the basics. I promise you, inshallah. Right. So now, so let's start with value. Let's start with customer segments. I always teach. Sorry, on the right hand side first. I always teach my coaches, my entrepreneurs, and even students. I said we start with the customer segments first, with the customer profile first. I said, oh, Dr. Imran, I mean, we were taught and everything start with. I said it's good. It's good that you know the basics. It's good that you were taught some level of entrepreneurship. But with me, everybody follows a certain way and a certain understanding, and this is for me the right way. Remember this slide? Get the fundamentals down and the level of everything that you do after that will rise. It's not right or wrong. It's just a matter of preference, right? So now, as a preference, I start with customer segment and customer profiles, right? So now, everybody here who consider themselves as an established entrepreneurs, as a startup, as somebody who's entering the industry, I promise you, you need to have this this detail explained down to the bare bones and fully researched, right? In your customer segments, what I need you to know is actually who are your customers, siapakah pelanggan kita. Yes, whether berbayar tak bayar, which is very important, and explain whether they are paying or not paying, and actually who is paying, because as we now know, sometimes our target beneficiaries, those who are actually receiving our value, are not the recipients. So contohnya lah, businesses with childcare, daycare, anything related to with babies. Yes, the diapers, the Pampers punya brand tu kan, the Pampers, the susu Nestle, the susu bayi tu, yes, the parents don't drink, but the parents pay, and the child drinks and the babies drink, right? So yeah, understand that level of interaction, which is good, but just know that who is your customer and who is paying. It's very simple. Sometimes it's just one person. Oh yeah, it's just a guy who's usually he's in his 20s and usually they have this problem and we fix it for them in monthly or regular intervals. Very simple, right? What do they say about it? At this point of time, it's not part of the BMC, but at this point of time, in any point of a business, post-pandemic, before the pandemic, or when it's endemic, when there's PKP, when there's PKPP, and when there's no PKP at all, I just need you to just answer this. What do your customers say about your value? Not about your company or your product. Your value, right? It's very different, right? So when I teach entrepreneurs, I focus more about the value. It's part of the value proposition, but when we focus on the customer segments, which is why some people teach value proposition first, but I teach customer segment first. The value needs to be defined first, because the value is subjective. For me, higher education is important. I'm from the higher education industry. I have a lot of friends, a lot of colleagues there in the research, in the industry. Very good friends, very good network. However, the value for me in a university education right now is little to none because of my level of expertise. Because again, the value is subjective. Why would I need another degree in biochemistry? Like, let's say I want to focus on bioeconomy and focus on a specific detailed industry. I'm from a different industry now. Let me just venture into another industry. Why would I need another degree, right? So again, not to demean anybody who's a biochemist. I'm right now with Bioeconomy Corporation. I've probably insulted a few, but but I'm just giving you the input that basically, hey, I mean, the value for a lot of people is profound. Like, I probably should say like a few 10,000, few 100,000 of people could use that degree. But for me specifically, that value is probably non-existent because where I am at. Because yes, in order to fit your business, your products, your services to a customer, the value has to be defined. All right, the value changes. It changes from time to time, especially with the pandemic. Right? Setengah orang ada salah faham yang di mana, hey, I cannot conduct business because PKP. Who says so? If I've coached personally B40 entrepreneurs who have never had a smartphone in their lifetime, I promise you this. Some of them, the first time they've turned on a smartphone, the first time they've used Google Meet, the first time they use Zoom, the first time they've even tried WhatsApp even, and registered for an email is during my training, right? And they can go digital. So don't let questions say, oh, I'm totally, I cannot. I really need a location. I really need customers to come in from places. When there's a will, there's a way. I promise you, right? If these people who are literally depending on their businesses to survive, literally to survive, they can find a way. I'm sure any one of you who probably think they have an unsolvable problem, inshallah, I mean, with the right amount of time and the right people, you'll probably find a way, right? So the value has to be defined. Very, very very different circumstances. All right, I like to kind of like go a bit general, right? So usually, right? Let's look at the fast food industry, because everybody loves fast food. Everybody keeps talking about Grab, about Foodpanda, about McDonald's, KFC, so on and so forth, right? Which is good. So let's just go. Let's just go with one big giant, for example, right? What McDonald's, right? What is the customer profile has not changed for the past, I guess, about 3 decades. However, one thing has changed within the customer profile is actually the value that the customer accepts, right? During the PKP season, when it's ketat, when SOP ketat, yes, McDonald's and other restaurants from start to finish, arguably, with the exception of a few days, from start to finish, has never been forced to close down. Correct. There's never been forced by the ministries, by the federal government, even by politicians. Hey, shut down because of COVID, because people need to eat, right? So they are allowed to operate. They might scale down on operating hours. Maybe 24 hours is not allowed, and scale down to specific hours is fine, but they are allowed to operate. But the losses that they've gained, ataupun the loss of income that they've incurred throughout the pandemic has been enormous, right? Because the value changed for the customers. Certain customers, let's talk about university students. Certain university students, when they go to restaurants, sometimes it's for the Wi-Fi, it's for the experience, sitting down and having a meal, or just, doing some work, doing some gaming, even doing some social media work in a comfortable environment. However, when you put in the restriction, you cannot dine in, so you lose all of that benefits. The value changes. You still get a Happy Meal, you still get a burger, you still get a Big Mac. By no question, that quality is reassured multiple 10,000 millions of times over every day throughout the pandemic. However, I do want to highlight that basically okay, you get your burger, you get your drinks, good. Now, do you eat it right away? I mean, if during the season when the restrictions are quite strict, no, you just either take away, or you just go to the drive-thru counter and just go away, or you can order it via delivery apps. So now the value changes in multiple times in that way. So university students, people with families, cannot dine in. Yes, it's very, very important because you need to curb the spread of the disease. However, but for customers who are actually paying that price, last time they get a burger, they get fries, they get a drink, but they get like, okay, they get comfortable sitting, they get nice songs playing in the background, they get to sit down, scroll down on their phone, or even if they brought their laptops, they can plug in, charge, and then use the Wi-Fi to do work, to do proposals, to do research work, to do any academic related activities, to do any gaming related activities, and then after a few 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, they move on, right? But all with the price of 5 ringgit 90 cents or whatever set that you pay for. And they get it to eat it hot. And however, now that let's put in a template of the SOP, the value changes because, okay, now you don't have that anymore. You only get food and a drink and then fries. And then, oh, I cannot dine in. So I have to eat in my car. So I have all this mess. So again, we always forget about every value once it's taken away from us. So now I have to clean up in my car, or now I have to go home and have a big trash bag. So I have to basically eat the food cold. It's not warm anymore. I have to take an effort to drive to the restaurant and then order, wait 10-15 minutes, and then finally get my order, drive back. So that's 30 minutes, 40 minutes out of my day gone. Then if I do pay for delivery, so now something that is worth 8 ringgit 90 cents or 12 ringgit, suddenly I have to pay 5 ringgit for extra delivery. So again, I still don't get an environment, but I get a premium. But again, the food is still the price the same, but you have to pay the extra cost for delivery. So suddenly something that costs 12 ringgit becomes 18, 19, 20 ringgit, right? So suddenly the value changes. Something that costs 12 ringgit now is becoming 20 ringgit in that area. So the quality, the product is the same, but the value changes. So now so that's why I need to understand what value is and how it changes with the pandemic, right? So now you understand about your customers. So now you have a bit of input now. So now let's say McDonald's again, a big giant. So now there's no more university student customers. Yeah, you rely on them every lunch hour. That now there's no more people with family. Yes, there's no more playground anymore. I mean, there is a physical playground, but again, it means nothing to parents if their kids cannot go and play inside the playground, right? So they won't bring their family, they won't bring everything, right? So suddenly the value changes that much different, even though everything is arguably the same, okay? So now that we understand the core concept about how value changes and why is it important that you know this about your customers, let's understand a bit about your company, right? So I'm just going to leave it there. The value proposition, the customer segment, I'm just going to leave it there. Who are your customers, who is paying, and what do they say about your value? How has it changed? Is it enough? Is it cheaper? Is it expensive? How has it changed in the past 1 year and 8 months, 1 year and almost 2 years, right? Now let's go back to your value proposition, okay? Apologies if you think this is a lecture, but this is very different from what they teach you in BMC. It's because I'm focusing on what your business is at right now, all right? So let's or what they teach you in Entrepreneurship 101, right? So now let's focus on your customers, right? In your value proposition, your company, right? Your products, your services, everything about you. You own everything and you control everything, right? Right and wrong, because yes, you control the product, you control the service, you control everything that is being paid for by the company, but for the value is subjective. So when I ask about value proposition, yes, you can tell me a bit more about your products and services, which is good. I'm more than happy to learn about them. But more importantly, to me and to your customers, what value does your customer actually receive? What value do you or your company gives to the customer, right? So say you solve a problem. How? Tell me how, right? People say that, oh, we're an internet company, we provide broadband. So tell me how, because your customers right now, if you are, let's say, a telco company, it's not like you're the only telco company in the world. Not only the telco company in Malaysia, not only the telco company in my Taman, in my state. I literally have 8 other telco companies vying for my money. Tell me what value that I get with you. free internet, so on and so forth, no speed cap, unlimited internet, blah, 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 or a higher gigabyte data plan instead of a conventional data plan. So tell me all about it. Do I actually have high speed? So again, most people, when we're talking about internet, it's not about internet's existence. Right? A lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of businesses, they forget this. Oh, this is what our value is, this is our product. No, you don't tell me about that. Tell me about your customers and what do they get. If you're selling me a car, then it's not fair for me to, all right, the cheapest car in Malaysia that's made in Malaysia, locally made, locally assembled, would be, I guess, a Pro brand, somewhere around 30 to 40,000. Yes, and then suddenly, when you go to, I guess, a Mercedes, Bentley, Ferrari, or Lamborghini dealership, or showroom, all right, I'll buy that one and expect to pay 20,000, 30,000. Right? So that's not fair. What value do they get? So again, not to confuse between whatever is affordable, whatever is low price, and whatever is a premium price. No, I'm asking you is what I'm asking you is actually what value do they get, right? So different. At one point in time in 2014, 2015, back when I guess Prodo was the king of the automotive sector in Malaysia. Yes, Prodo had like 5 years, 6 years, undisputed, unbeatable sales of their vehicles in Malaysia for for half a decade or even going into a decade, right? Nobody is contesting that. Even Proton, I mean, the first and wholly owned Malaysian car manufacturing facility in Malaysia is struggling at that time. But Produa is again the second local manufacturer with their foreign partners, with their key partners in the area, have been dominant in sales. However, despite that, year on year, a German company automaker is winning the profitability race for whatever Produa profits, let's say 10-15%. That German automotive manufacturer is profiting somewhere around 60-70%. Despite one car, you sell easily hundreds of thousands of cars more than we do. We only sell a few thousand a month, a quarter even, and yet this is our profit margin. This is our profitability, right? Because they clearly know their value, their customers, and what value do we get a customer. Even at that point of time, when we had a mini recession way back in 2014, 2015, it's not that big of a deal compared to now. But yes, a lot of people flock into lower cost, more affordable brands, and surprisingly, they and Starbucks and all of these, I think Franco restaurants or all these high premium restaurants had the most unbeatable profit margins in that year. Yes, the most affordable brands and products were highly sought after. The sales were unbelievable. But at the same time, the premium end products, where again, the value is arguable at best, but they know their customers better, they know their value better, that they proceeded to take huge profit, right? So again, now at this point of your business, we need to know what value that you give to your customers. Again, you can talk about products, you can talk about your service, but orient it structure it into a totally different way, on the perspective on what do you give the customers. That's exactly it. At this point of time, whether you're a startup, whether you have a business before the pandemic and you're still figuring out how to survive, how to maneuver the economy, whether you're a 30-year veteran, if you don't know this by now, please think about it, right? I know this is probably not taught to you. This is something probably unique to you, but I promise you, if you start thinking about it in this way, you'll probably get the fundamentals right? So I'm just focusing on the fundamentals. These are the fundamentals. Who are your customers? What and how they get your value, and what value do you actually give to your customers? So once you've settled these two things, customer segments or customer profile and the value proposition, you'll be surprised on how easy the next steps are. Whether you're growing your business, sustaining your business, whether you're scaling up from a startup to an SME, whether you want to adopt a technology or you want to go digital later on. So again, everything would be that much simpler and that much easier, I promise you, right? So apologies, we took too much time on this, but I just want to get the fundamentals, right? So barring me lecturing on, droning on for a couple of hours, I almost forgot, or I need to remind all of you that basically that yes, whether you've been taught business or entrepreneurship here or before, I just want to remind you. So if your customers are other businesses, i.e., you know, the government, an agency, or a private company, or a multinational company, you are fulfilling a need for them, then it's fine. The same value proposition, customer segment definition applies. However, please also add in, it makes sense for you to also know who their customers are, right? So you need to know who they are, what value does your customer, i.e. the company, the multinational company, the agency, the government, gives to that target customers. Yeah, because again, by transitive properties, whoever your customers are actually your customers as well, right? Okay, so I know I know we're supposed to talk about tech, but bear with me for now, because whatever that I've just mentioned, i.e. the customer segments and the value proposition, is actually how you grow and sustain your business in the COVID-19 era. All right, okay. So now I know this is a bit short, but let me just give you a bit of time to process it. I know we haven't went into the core topics, but I just want to check back with you if you guys have any questions as well. Right? So Puan Nur, how is it so far? If
I think there's a question on the chat box, Dr. Imran.
All right, thank you very much. Right. So I have one here. On my second screen is how do we really compute how much value are giving to customers by doing market survey? All right, good. Puan Aznita Naziz. All right. So before, so it's just quite recently, and of course I welcome anybody who wants to ask questions, especially those who wants to unmute and have a direct conversation with me. You're more than welcome to do that. I mean, I know Malaysians are polite and shy, but I'm a Malaysian too, by the way. But of course, feel free to ask me anything, right? Okay, so Puan Aznita, if I can address you correctly, how do we really compute how much value we are giving to customers by doing a market? Is it by doing a market survey? Question mark, right? So apologies for the misreading of the sentence, right? So actually, Puan Aznita, if I can get a bit of your feedback, would you like to introduce, because I want my answer to be much more purposeful and have a better meaning, especially to you, Puan Aznita. Would you mind unmute and hey, I'm Puan Aznita, this is my business. Just give me a short introduction so I can help you better. Is it okay?
Hi, doctor.
Hi.
I'm Aznita, actually from Bioeconomy Corporation. So my role is actually in assisting businesses in their investments or in their starting up of their businesses in Malaysia, but particularly in the biotech sector. So most of the companies that we meet is that they don't really understand how to identify which of the attributes that actually can bring the highest return for their businesses, right? So that's why maybe they say I give value by, you know, it's a unique product. It gives the attribute is that the product that they supply to customers. Can you listen? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Right.
So sometimes you say, okay, this product is unique and therefore it gives value to the customers. But then again, sometimes you feel that when they say it's unique, whether that uniqueness is actually, you know, something that the customers really value as compared to other products in the market. So, you know, so how do we, you know, quantify as whether it is really something that will change or entice people to buy their product instead of the competitor's product.
All right. Thank you very much, Miss Aznita. All right. So I'm very happy I got to hear your voice and actually ask details about where you're coming from, because now that I understand where you're coming from better, now I understand the question a bit better, because you're not actually asking a bit more about do you need to do a market survey. Actually, you're asking for on behalf of your customers, i.e. all the participants and everybody that you help in Bioeconomy Corp, is how do you and do you need to, and how do you get market validation, which is different. Thank you very much for that question. Very thoughtful and very much representative on where you're coming from, i.e. you're asking on behalf of other people that might be too shy to ask and maybe asking on and asking on their behalf. So thank you very much for that question. Now, number one, with regards to actual value, and everybody here and participants and everybody that Bioeconomy Corporation helps, please listen carefully. Right. So now, the value that you bring to your customers, either reduction in low sugar, is actually very subjective. But everybody can agree on is that, hey, this is what customers say about us. That's what Malaysians are very well famous, known to do. Memang kita sangat bagus on selling feelings, selling experience. I promise you, Malaysians, we do that better than most countries. All right. So when you want to get market validation, you want to know what your customers are saying about you, actually go back to we're going to go to that strategy, right? So it's more about this is what you need to know. One of the strategies in growing your business moving forward is I would highlight a few strategies. Them being is actually knowing your customer in the first place. All right. Instead of knowing your what value do you have, I rather you get to know your customers. I always say in marketing, get three things. You have to get a name, phone number, and email address, because then you can contact your customer. So, but again, we're not talking about marketing, we're talking about the basics. The reason why I ask marketeers, when I train marketing executives, salespeople, people that does advertising and sales and marketing, it's fine. I tell them just to get three things, because their bosses should know when you get these three things. Why is it so important for us to get to know our customers? Call them back, getting their inputs, field surveys, and that's all important, because that's the next step which you need to do, getting to know your customers, right? So now, those people who coincidentally that I've trained for marketing and sales and advertising, forget what I said about just get three things. Know everything about your customers. For example, the reason why high-end premium products, when a mini pandemic start in the half of the decade, 2010 to 2020, sorry, not a mini pandemic, when a mini recession started and affected our economy at the half of the decade throughout 2010 to 2020, you see that high-end businesses, i.e. German automotive car manufacturers, resellers in Malaysia, Starbucks, which is premium coffee compared to, McDonald's and Kedai Mamak, RM2 becomes RM20, so RM2 coffee becomes RM20. So of course, but they actually know their value, where at the rate where, okay, people are tightening their purse strings. I mean, I know I'm a bit, you can see via my hand, I'm a bit old, but purse strings are actually what you say your wallets or your e-wallets nowadays, i.e. restricting your accounts to a certain budget. So yeah, tightening the purse strings. So, but they know key people in their customers, hey, I mean, you're not affected by it. You have a lot of savings. You don't want to reduce your quality of life. You want to have fun. You need us. You want us. So keep spending that money. Here's a few incentives for you to keep on spending with us, and here is how we go our sales. So I mean that's how they tell their board of directors. So good. So the value is actually just knowing your customers. Automatically, by knowing them, you will know your value. I will highlight a few key strategies moving forward on the next modules and the next topics. If I forget, just remind me, because I don't want to give out my outline early on in the session. Right? So thank you very much for that question. Right. So, but of course, in the basics of it is that, I promise you, whether you listen to my slide or whether I forget on the next topics, next coming topics, I promise you, you will get the answer outright by just going to that basic, right? So,
Dr. Imran, sorry to interrupt you. We do have another question from Samsu Kadir, which is in the chat box. Would you like me to read it for you?
All right. So I have a question here from Samsu Kadir.
That's correct.
If I can address you later, I would love an introduction, but let me just read aloud the question. Sometimes what the company promised to customers, value proposition, is different from what the value the customer anticipated. How to align so that the exact value the customer expected are the same with the company? Wonderful question. Okay, so if I same thing with this person, if I can get a nice introduction so that I can understand where you're coming from, so I can give a better response. So would you like to try introduce yourself?
Samsu Kadir, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Samsu Kadir. I'm from Kementerian Belia Sukan.
So you're from?
Kementerian Belia Sukan, Ministry
Yes.
of Youth and Sport. I'm teachers from the Institute Kemahiran Belia Kebun Pertak, Kuala Lumpur Baru.
Yes.
Okay. That's all for my introduction.
Oh, right. You want to elaborate more on the question? Yeah.
Okay, regarding the question, so normally sometimes the company, the value proposition that company offered is sometimes different what the customer expected.
What they're selling is different from what is actually being delivered to the customer.
When they do the advertisement, they give all the value proposition, that is all the benefit with the cost. But sometimes when the customer try to get the what is offered is sometimes is different from the offered by the company. Okay, that's all about the question.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Samsu. Now that I fully understand where you're coming from, I detected a bit of hint that, oh, is it okay to oversell? Now, that's what I usually get from engaging with people. So thank you very much. So I do detect a bit of that. So I want to add that to that question. So number one, thank you very much for a wonderful, thought-provoking question. Number one, when we have a value proposition, like I said, the definitions by now standard. That's why when I start teaching entrepreneurs at the basic level, when you start to the value, I teach them the value. Doesn't matter how many hours we go on ahead. People keep talking about McDonald's, Asia. I don't mind when we talk about things that everybody understands in as a baseline, as a customer, they themselves as a customer. We start to go into the nitty-gritty of it, the details of it, and actually understand what the value are. Right, so I was very impressed with a few entrepreneurs in training, would-be entrepreneurs, when they talk about big franchises as a franchise selling to investors, not to direct customers. I was very surprised that they had a deeper understanding of the market and the business, because again, that's what franchises do. They sell to franchisees. They don't sell to customers directly. They sell a brand that the customers love, but to buy in, you need a couple of hundreds of thousands or a few $million to buy into this franchise program and becoming a franchisee and get all the rewards, and you sell to the customers. So yeah, so I was very happy with it. So that's what I get with engaging with people, right? So now moving back, so with the value proposition, yes, it's actually whatever you say is true. As a basis, I would dare say the value proposition that the company is promising, i.e., whatever you're selling, that's not the value proposition. The value proposition, the value that the customer receives, i.e., whatever is being delivered, that is the true and actual value. So again, it's not that the company is wrong with overselling and everything, but they need to realign. Okay, what is actually being delivered? All right, I dare say with the pandemic, with the economy, with multiple various factors, things sometimes change. All right. So I guess for example, I think one of the biggest phone IT company in the world, technology company in the world is Apple. So they had something controversial when they are not adopting a technology we're talking about. They're still using their lightning cable instead of USB-C, despite the technology is much easily adaptable, doing a lot of things, and that's what customers are complaining about. They are complaining not about the, hey, our phone is 3,000 ringgit, our phone is $1,099. They're not complaining about that. They're complaining about the value being promised them. Lightning fast charging, I want USB-C. So that's why they're complaining about. So that's why. But of course they have their principles. So I agree with you. This is the exact same scenario. They're promising high-end technology charging, and they're giving a 10-year-old technology for us to utilize. Instead, readily available public domain technology, USB-C, they're not planning on using it. So yes. So actually, the value that they give is actually what the customers have. If you're selling me a $1,099 phone or $5,000 ringgit phone, it applies to Samsung even. If they use micro USB, I'll condemn them for that. So you give me fast charging, but a 5-year technology, whatever that you're selling, the value that I'm getting is a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 10-year-old technology. You can say whatever you want in your billboards. I'm getting this value. So usually most companies, with the exception of Apple, because they're a $1 trillion company, they do whatever they want. Most companies would pivot into, okay, this is actually what our customers want, and we need to address that. So usually, yes, overselling is a big thing with multiple small companies, especially in Malaysia. So what I usually say that there's no harm in marketing. Good marketing carries good business. However, if your marketing oversells, promises an overinflated value, and then what is being delivered, I promise you that is one of the warning signs of a failed business. I.e., you can never get returning customers. You can never get customers coming. Imagine if, for example, the next iPhone comes out at $2,000, smaller screen, LCD, not even LCD, monochromic screen. Zaman-zaman I pakai phone dulu, monotone screen, and then micro USB charger. They can sell at 2,000 and maybe like they can sell 40 million, 60 million, and even 100 million. But the next iPhone, nobody will buy. So that's the thing. So usually it's on the company to correct the mistake and realign to whatever is actually being delivered to the customer. So thank you very much for the question, Mr. Samsu.
Thank you, Doctor, for the info.
Yeah, all right. So any other question?
Dr. Imran, we actually do have a question, but this came from a bit offline, so I'll just read it for you.
Sure.
Okay. The question is, do we always need to change our business values according to market trends or economic climate?
Right. Thank you very much. This is offline. I can't get feedback for where the person is who is asking is coming from. However, I like to think about this way. Now, so there's no company here today that's world-renowned, Apple, Microsoft, Dell, I guess whatever is even Petronas in Malaysia now is the same as they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I promise you. If you don't know anything, Petronas right now is focusing on sustainability energy. More about green, surprisingly more about green energy rather than fossil fuel and coal, which is again the bread and butter they're probably world-renowned for. Less on marketing with like unlimited cash going into overseas and more focusing on community empowerment, so on and so forth. Dell, I think when I was working and I guess when I was a kid, it's a staple in every household. I think Dell and HP staple in every household. Now, surprisingly, their business models are shifted towards the data servers, i.e. all the cloud computing, everything that you store in the cloud, they're handling that instead of, selling you PCs and laptops. That makes a minority chunk of their operation and revenue streams, definitely. So, of course, Apple, so on and so forth. I mean, they're not selling computers anymore. They're selling, their biggest product is the iPhone, and they're not selling iPods anymore. Again, I guess arguably they started becoming famous because of the iPods and the music players. I mean, right now, try putting an MP3 file in any device in Malaysia, you'll probably get sued, right? Or it's probably going to be very expensive if you do it legally, right? So now, the idea behind it, because yes, that's what companies do. This one of the themes that we want to talk about within multiple stations of business is that they need to change, and the power to change is usually, the bigger they are, the harder it is to change. It's kind of like the statement, the bigger they are, the harder they fall, which is true, because the bigger you are, the more established you are, especially with your Petronas, when you need to pivot into new markets, new strategies, especially new technology strategies, you're going to be way behind. Startups can do it easily because of a few factors we'll explore later. But the idea is true. You can never sustain a 3-decade business without moving to where the market is. Right now, okay, let me just give you an example. I think everybody right now is using either Wi-Fi, LAN connected, which is fiber connected, not copper connected. Because again, before copper, there was telecommunication lines, which is what TM is for. The name TM, especially if I have millennial entrepreneurs or students here, is for Telecom Malaysia, right? Telecom. So if you are not as old as me, what is a telephone? I mean, that's what my niece asked me. She's in Form 2 in high school. What is a telephone? Oh, those are the ones that plug in beside the router. That's a telephone. Oh, so smartphone yang ada wire. Yes, that's what it is. Because back then, Telecom Malaysia, they were more focused, not even copper networks. It's just landlines, and then of course they move on to internet, which is copper based, and now it's fiber based. And the next technology is probably going to be something thinner and something much more high level of data. Because again, imagine TM Malaysia just doing what they do best, public phones and landlines. Again, what they were originally intended to do. So if they did not shift it towards the target customers, which is again not just people working anymore, not just people at home, people who want to watch TV, and they had a famous partnership with the streaming service in Malaysia and Southeast Asia, where they get free and unlimited streaming services. Of course, not Netflix, but still, they're heading towards, last time you needed to call people, right now you need to be entertained. So very big paradigm shift from whatever they originally intended 30, 40, 50 years ago compared to what they need to do now and what they're doing right now to consumers. So yes, the change is warranted, not because of what your business is comfortable in doing. I dare say, whatever TM could do, I think 10 years ago, 30 years ago, Maxis can do, any DG can do, any telecommunication company, and even any startup with the right people, with the right backing, with the right infrastructure can do, because they've identified it earlier. But of course, TM was most suitable to do it because they had all the infrastructure available. And that's why people are not waiting anymore. That's why TNB, another private company, is heading into fiberization. That's why Maxis, that's why Time is heading into fiberization, just because they know there is a need and they know that they can do it better with a higher profit margin. So that's why a lot of people are going to that area. Not because, I can do this because I can do this. TNB has no business, if by that definition, TNB has no business going into fiberization, i.e. internet. Stick what we're good at, energy, right? But of course, they know that they can do this, right? So they are heading into that direction. Energy can do so much. Customers are expending energy, but you don't know what they're spending it on. With data, with fiberization, you actually know what they're doing it for. So now you have a business model that knows how much electricity demands is needed, as well as what are they using it for? Are they using it to charge their smartphones? If they have that data, like Amazon has with their customers, probably sell them a second one, sell them an additional subscription, sell them a wireless second adapter. That's probably a good business strategy, right? So again, I don't want to speak for them, but that's where you see the trends are going, because they're not doing what they can do, they're doing what their customers are going into, right? So thank you very much for the question, anonymous person. So any other question? Right.
I think we have no more questions for this session. So shall we close the session for a 10-minute break before you start on your second topic?
Yes, yes.
Okay, would 10 minutes be all right with you, Dr. Imran?
Yes, good enough for me.
Okay. In that case, we will gather back at 11:15. So see you in 10 minutes. Thank
All right.
you.
All right. Usually you go ahead, take a break. But I usually, I'm staying here. I have my cup of water here. So if anybody wants to engage with me
Doc,
or ask questions, go ahead.
if you don't mind,
Oh yes,
could
is
you
there a
repeat what
question?
you mentioned about? Yeah, my name is Magat Skanda. I'm from Bioeconomy Corp.
Sorry,
The thing you
again,
mentioned
sorry,
about.
you're not that clear. Sorry, can you try again? Sorry. Yeah.
My name is Magat Iskandar. I'm from Bioeconomy Corp as well.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Something
Right.
about you, yeah, about you mentioning about TNB. Correct me, I'm wrong, but you said that TNB is also going into. They reinvented themselves and basically went into more or less part of telecommunication. Did I
Yes.
get it wrongly?
Yeah, it's exactly right. They're into fiberization. They're one of the big tenders to apply for infrastructure with regards to fiber optic cables, which supplies the internet landlines to your home network. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay, and
you're
then
exactly right.
you did mention that you mentioned about selling a second adapter or something like that.
Oh
What
yeah.
was that again?
No, I'm telling you. For example, like where they're heading is, for example, right now they have arguably nice data, right? Okay, which areas uses the most power. They have that because they want to bill us. That's all well and good. But if they sell you your internet, i.e., most internet companies, Time, Maxis, TM, they have your usage data. So that's how we know where there's a data cap. You notice that some telecommunication companies, TM, Time, or Maxis, they have a data cap because yes, they do know how much data you're spending on because they need to provide for it. You cannot sell unlimited data without knowing how many people using it. For example, Malaysia is good, but let's say one country or a specific part of Malaysia, all right, unlimited data cap, let's utilize 1 trillion gigabytes per second. So that will easily bankrupt any economy or any telecommunication company. So yeah, they do have access to that. So knowing that now, what Amazon does is that Amazon US, they're basically the Shopee and Lazada of US or UK and Europe. So they have all this information stored in their cloud and all their services that, all right, so people are using, buying this from mobile, from so on and so forth, and they're looking towards a trend. So for example, the e-reader and the voice assistant is actually derived from all the algorithms, all the collected, hey, actually people use these services a lot. Why don't we sell them this? So that's how they started with Amazon Echo and all of these e-reader, all of these home speakers, because they know that's a need from the customers. And easily they know how much the price costs because they control the platform. For example, Philips and Yamaha would probably sell a speaker for $300 to $500. So let's start a nice mini speaker with a voice assistant feature for 80, 90 US dollars. So that's how they control the market. So what I'm telling you is that why certain businesses are pivoting, because they have a sustainable business model. They want to venture into something else that carries more value into, i.e., all right, networking. I know how much people are, how much data capacity a household needs. So this is probably, if I was the CEO, let's package it up. So why don't anybody who wants to subscribe with TNB, it's going to be $300, 300 ringgit a month, but I'll give you 100 ringgit of your electricity bill. For example, suddenly everybody will go for TM fiberization, TNB LO fiberization package, for example. So that's usually because they know what the customers want and need at that point. Right? So just an example. I don't know. I was a CEO, that's where I'm heading, but of course, they have their own plans.
Yeah, thank you very much for your insights.
All right. So yeah, that's also included a part of that, but part of 10 minutes. So again, I welcome any dialogue, any questions again. So I'm here. I have my drink. So we still have a couple more minutes. So you're more than welcome to unmute and ask questions if you have any.
In any case, I'll just remind everybody that the next topic will start at 11:15. Thank you.
You're welcome. Right. I'll just be here. I'll mute myself. I'll keep the video on so that you know I'm here. So if anybody wants to ask questions, especially if they're suara di mahal sangat, I know some you could be the next Datuk Siti Nurhaliza for all I know. So you can just type in the chat box. I'll readily read it and answer it as best as I can. So that's all for me. Other than that, if you don't have any questions, I'll see you guys in another 5 minutes. I mean, I'll hear from you guys. You'll hear my voice in another 5 minutes.